Everybody, this is Jeff Martin with Magic City Books. We're so thrilled to have you back here for our virtual author series, which we have been doing since April. We've been doing about 2 or 3 of these a week, believe it or not. We've done dozens and dozens of them. We've had what I kind of call a mixtape of events, some things talking about very serious topical things. Sometimes we just want to have a good time and enjoy ourselves and just kind of create a little bit of a balance to what we're doing. I want to tell you about a couple of things coming up. Tomorrow night, October 27th, we will be speaking with, or actually rather that it's noon, it's a lunchtime, with our friend John Grisham. So what perfect timing we have here. We're going to be talking about Time for Mercy, which is the long-awaited sequel to A Time to Kill, a Jake Bergant's novel. How perfect is that we're going to be doing that tomorrow. So there's still time to join us. Go to our website, magiccitybooks.com, and you can get tickets for that event. It's actually free. You just need to register and join us for that. It's going to be a really fun lunchtime. Make a sandwich, watch some John Grisham, and we'll talk about A Time for Mercy. Also, we're just over a week away from the election. We want you to get out there and vote. Early voting starts here. You can actually go to the ballpark, which is just down the street from the bookstore, One Oak Field. We're going to be doing early voting out there, so you can do it safe. You can cast your vote out there, bring your friends, tell your parents, tell everybody to get out there and vote with you. We want to make sure everybody is exercising their right to vote during this time of year. So that's that. We're going to be doing a lot of events coming up. I would be kind of lying to everybody if I said I thought we were going to be doing in-person events anytime soon, but I think we're going to be doing these virtual ones at least well into the spring. We want to stay safe and do these things the right way, but we're going to keep chugging along and bringing you quality content. So stay with us and see what's coming up. Couldn't be more excited about this event. When we're living in a COVID-19 era and we've had a lot of bummer news, it's exciting when you get an email or some news that really brightens your day. And when we first heard that we were going to have opportunity for this specific event, I think there was a pretty collective cheer throughout our whole staff and everybody about this opportunity. And once we were able to tell the public about it, it's definitely been a bright spot for the whole city and everybody else who's watching. Obviously, we have a lot of people watching and listening from other parts of the country as well. I've been a fan of Matthew McConaughey, for a long time. I remember seeing A Time to Kill in the theater when it came out. I'm not sure I saw Dazed Confused in the theater. I'm not sure who did. I saw it on video, but I remember it was a pretty transformative experience. I was 14 at the time, which is a good age to catch Dazed and Confused. And I've been doing kind of cramming for the last couple of weeks, just kind of revisiting all the films. But what's really been exciting is getting a chance to read Greenlights and see a kind of different side of Matthew's work. It's kind of annoying that he's this good at that many different things. And we're not going to talk about OU Texas football at all today. I think that's something we're definitely not going to be talking about. We're going to keep it on the positive, and we're going to have a great time. And I just want to say a huge thank you and turn it over to our new friend, Matthew McConaughey. Welcome, Matthew.
Hello, Jeff. Thanks for having me. Honored to be here. Yeah, we won't talk about OU Texas. Good. That would take too long, wouldn't it? Hello, everybody out there. This is my first book tour. My first book I've written, Greenlights. I'll be telling you some stories about it. I'm gonna answer some questions from some of you out there first, and then, as you know, my good and great friend, brother from another mother, Mr. Woody Harrelson, is going to show up later in the conversation. He will probably, Woody's not one to ring doorbells or even knock, so he's probably going to come flying in, somersaulting into this conversation virtually and just show up and may interrupt us completely, and that'll be a good interruption. Before we get going, I just want to remind everyone out there that probably already knows this, but for those of you who don't or would like a reminder, that Magic City Books is an independent bookstore in downtown Tulsa. It's owned and operated by nonprofit Tulsa Literary Coalition. Every book sold and dollar earned supports the coalition's mission. So good on you for the independent books and the sales there. We'll jump right in before we get going. I hope everyone, as Jeff brought up a little bit earlier, hope everyone's doing as well as they possibly can be during this topsy-turvy 2020 we're in. Hope you're taking care of yourselves and your loved ones, and let's get through this election without a civil war. What do you say? So we can catch some green lights on the other side. All right, I'm going to answer a few questions here first. Questions from some of you. First one is, what was the hardest part about writing this book, and how did you overcome the hurdles to get through it? Well, first off, the hardest part was getting out the door to go do it. It's kind of like, working out. What's the hardest part about working out? Tying your damn shoes and getting out the door. I had been threatening, daring myself to, I have this treasure chest full of these journals I've been keeping for 36 years. And I always have the treasure chest with me. It's one of those things that I've shared with the family. Hey, if the house burns down, please get that treasure chest along with the pets, etc. And I've been daring to open that treasure chest of diaries for about 15 years to go see what was in them. I never had the courage to open them. A couple of years ago, I had a little few week opening, and I started to talk to my wife Camilla about it. And I was like, I think I'm gonna open them up and see what it is. And she gave me a kick in the backside and said, "Yep, load up the truck, get out of here, and don't come back until you got something." So I packed up, went away to the desert, found this little cabin with no electricity for the first couple of weeks, and opened up my diaries to see what I had. What they revealed to me were 50 years of stories, people, places, prescriptions, poems, prayers, and a whole lot of bumper stickers. Then, after I had those categories, I then went through all of those and found the central theme of Greenlights, which I'll talk to you more about later. I think the first challenge was I've told a lot of these stories verbally. I've performed these at dinner parties. I've shared them with friends around campfires, etc. But I've never written them down. And my first thought was, if I record my best version of the story, my most true version of the story, and then I just transcribe that to the page, that's going to be the best version on the page. Well, I found that to be false pretty quickly. I found that the best version of the stories on the page needed to be about 30% shorter than the spoken word and the performed word and the nonverbal things that I would do in telling you the story that I couldn't really do on the page. I found that really had to be particular about a word, a sentence, and that the spoken word was not necessarily the best written word. So that was one challenge. The other challenge for me was there's a lot of, when I say prescriptions in here, and coming up with that word for the title of what they are. I mean, because is it some wisdom? Sure. Is it sometimes advice? Sure. But the challenge was me, like most people, I don't like to be told what to do. So in giving these prescriptions and how to communicate these prescriptions, the challenge was, when do I use the first person I? This is my subjective experience. This is what I've learned. When do I use the second person you? And when do I use the royal we? Well, usually advice comes in that second person you, telling people, what to do. And it can be sort of offensive. It can be like a separate, like, who the hell do you think you are? Tell me what to do. But it was when to use the I, when to use the you, and when to use the we. Obviously, for me, when we can get to the royal we, the human experience, then we're in the honey hole. I did find, though, that the more personal into the I that I went with myself, the more it actually became a more universal message for the we. Those were two of my challenges that I dove into. Now I'm looking up here, gang. I got somebody already after one question. I'll come back later and answer the rest of these questions, because I think Mr. Woodrow, you there? You sneaking in the back door, bruh? I see you. I don't hear you. Press that microphone, the red microphone with the line across it. You press it. There you are.
Can you hear me?
I have visual and I have audio. Yes, sir. I was answering an audience question, and I said, look,
listening with interest. I would have liked to heard more about that. Anyway, it's great to see you, brother.
Good to see you, buddy.
Man.
Everybody, my brother from another mother here, Mr. Woody Harrelson, needs no introduction. As I said, he did obviously come in through the back door. I said, you don't ring doorbells or knock on doors, man. You come in through the back door, or you show up through the chimney. And once again, you proved me correct. Thank you.
Oh man, hey, I got to tell you something. I started reading your book. I'm only like 50 pages in, but it is phenomenal. It is so good. It's like I'm sitting listening to you. It's as if, I mean, obviously you wrote it, but I mean, it's as if you're talking. It's the way you talk. And it's because I think you're one of the most brilliant people I know. And, the way you communicate is pretty much second to none. And it makes me so happy. The wisdom in this book is amazing. The stories, hysterical. that story with you watching your parents fight, which I've heard you say before, but it is wonderful. And of course, you got the greatest story ever told is in there. It's awesome, buddy.
Well, that makes me doggone happy to see you smile and see that it lights you up. You're one of you're at the top of my list of people I'm most excited to see what they think about the book. Because obviously you and I know each other really well. And as I always say, the more time I spent with Woody, the younger I'm getting because of the laughter. And it's always a Saturday with you. And I got to share some of those Saturday stories. And I also got to share some of those Monday morning stories that were tough in the book. But hopefully the humanity shows out of it. And you're a guy who's always seen that. And I think that's a place where you and I actually come together and get along. You know, look, when we first met, there's always it's a little dicey on when we first met. Woody, you claim that we met long before I think we met.
Remember when we first met? That's the dicey part. I remember. You don't remember.
Okay. There was tequila involved in that night. It was a bit of an impression. It was a bit hazy, but we met one night. I'd always wanted to meet you, and then we worked together. And I think it was '97 on Ed TV. And my first recollection, post the first time we evidently did meet, was we're in San Francisco. I'm with Ron Howard. We're doing wardrobe test. And, you're in there, all the costume designer has all the clothes that you're going to try on. And I'm sitting by a window looking down one of those hills in San Francisco, and who's walking up the street? Not because I can see them first, because I can hear them first. Quack, 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 quack. I look out. And there's this man in bike shorts, professional bike top, and he's still got his professional bike riding shoes on that he's walking the streets of San Francisco in. And what I learned is that that was Woody Harrelson. That's you. And you came in, took an elevator or the stairs or whatever, and came into the room. And you were basically showing up to say, I am not here for a wardrobe test. I come to this meeting in my wardrobe, and we're not going to negotiate this. This is my wardrobe. I started to love you right then, man. I started to love you right then. We then went on. We did another film. You came and helped me out when we did Surfer Dude. But you and I've got a bunch of great stories and green lights in our own life. You and I've talked about our own red and yellow lights in our own life. Can you share, if you think it's a good one to share, that red light story that you told me about when you almost quit acting and you were in New York and you got a call, you stuck with it, you got the lucky call that came?
Well, yeah, I was in New York, and I was getting more and more frustrated. I mean, anyone who's listening now, who's trying to break into acting, they know how it's a little bit of a catch-22, how, or even just people who are already actors, it's very hard to get an agent because the agent wants to see you in something, but how are you going to be in something they can see unless you have an agent to get you a job? I mean, that wasn't the way things went down for you, but that's the way it is for a lot of people. So, I was trying to work that out. Anyway, I was really getting more and more frustrated. I went through 17 jobs in a year. Simple things like, mostly restaurant work, of course, because you didn't need any skill for that. Well, you actually do need skill, but I didn't have it. And they'd come over to me, they'd be like, I'd be a busboy or a runner. I could hardly make it up to waiter. And they'd come over, they'd say, Woody, go clean up that mess on table 3. Someone threw up. I'd be like, dude, you go clean up that mess on table 3. I'm not going to clean up. You're fired. Like that kind of thing. And so it was more and more frustrating. And I decided I was going to head back home. At the time, it was Ohio, where my mom was living. So, Lebanon, Ohio. So, I did get a chance to go in and read for this. Now, this is after I'd already got my ticket to, head home. It was $39.99 on People's Express. They used to have from, oh, thank you. Yeah, from New York to Cincinnati, which is not far from Lebanon. And
you're going to go home. You're quitting acting at this point. You got a one-way ticket to back to Ohio. Enough's enough.
New York has beat a few people, and I was one of them. It was tough.
Yeah.
And so I was going home, and then right before, I get into this fight with someone. I was working like at this place called Pershing's up on Columbus Avenue, 72nd or something. And I got into a fight there with the husband of the manager, the lady who's the manager. They were kind of coke people. And it was, there must have been coke involved. But anyway, a fight ensued. And then I got into a fight with that guy, and then his buddy came along. Well, anyway, I was done with New York, and I got the chance to go on this audition for Biloxi Blues, a Neil Simon play, which I was always a big fan of Neil Simon, still am. And I didn't care. That's the beauty part. The tough thing, about these auditions, well, you may not know because you're a different breed of person, but the tough thing is the nerves.
Yeah.
Just screw you. But
Yep.
I didn't care because I'm leaving anyway. So I got a chance in the audition. I did well. So I come back for the next audition, and there's Neil Simon there, and Manny Eisenberg and people. So I was I was a little nervous now because I knew this is it. It was for an understudy of two of the parts. And, but I did better than I would have if I didn't know I was heading home anyway. And then I got that call, and it was on a Friday. Oh my God. I don't remember being that happy in my life at that point. I was so psyched when they gave me the call. But I don't know. That's not really a story.
And you didn't go back, to Cincinnati. But there's something here that we can deconstruct here on this not caring and the value of that. I had the value of that and the non-value of that. I'm gonna try and cover both sides of that. I had about a year and a half. When I first came to Hollywood, I got my first two auditions, went to work, and then I had a year and a half after Boys on the Side where I would get the first audition, get a call back, get a third, but never get the fourth, never get the part. And I was tight. I mean, I remember I would leave the audition going, like, you did okay. You got to make 85%, but you didn't quite let it rip. You were kind of tight. And I just started taking acting lessons for the first time. All right. So I'm taking acting lessons for the first time. Now intellectually learning what I obviously had the instincts to do in the first place. And there's a curve there when you start to learn something that you kind of have a natural ability for, right? And that curve can be a little awkward. Well, I was in that curve, and I was not getting the roles. I was not getting anything. I got this blind offer for a film, one day's work. I play this sort of drug kingpin on the South Texas border. The coyotes bring their drugs over. I steal them from them and shoot them and kill them and go. It's a one-day part. That's what I'll play. El Rojo is my name, right? Well, I get this bright idea. Hey, all this studying, you're learning acting now, and you've been too tight in these auditions. Matthew, let's go back to how we did it in the beginning, Days Confused, when you didn't know what you were doing and you didn't have any lines and you just showed up and you played your guy. You did what Wooderson would do in Days Confused. So I get this bright idea. Speaking of bright ideas, here's my bright idea. I'm not going to read the script for this part. I'm not even going to read the scene for this day part I've got. I know my man. I know what I want. I know what the obstacle is. I know what I need. I'll overcome the obstacle. I'll just do what my man would do. Not going to read the script, nothing. Not even the scene. Boom, show up on set. Haven't read a word. Here comes the scene. I'm on my mark. The production assistant walks by and says, Mr. McConaughey, would you like some sides? Which are, that little copy of the today's scene. Well, I must have been feeling a little insecure about my new bright idea because I said, yeah, let me see those sides. So right before the take goes up, I said, I'm going to look at those sides. And I open them up. Page 1. page 2, page 3, page 4. 4-page monologue in Spanish. My God, I feel this bead of sweat come up on the back of my neck, and I remember saying it out loud to everyone and no one in particular. Can I get 12 minutes, please? And in my mind, 12 minutes was like not long enough time to be an inconvenience to the crew, but long enough to learn a 4-page monologue in Spanish because, hey, I took Spanish one semester in 11th grade. So I walk off, man, and I'm embarrassed, man, and I'm trying to just be cool. If you don't let them know you don't know what's going on, maybe they won't notice. Anyway, I go back. 12 minutes was not enough time to learn a 4-page monologue in Spanish. And I went back and did the scene. I've never seen it. I'm too embarrassed to watch it. But I guess what I'm getting at is that that was one way of, look, I cared too much, and that's why I wasn't getting work. And then I took it too far. I over leveraged that idea of not caring. And what I learned from that is, oh, you have to prepare to have freedom. You got to put in the work to be able to play. And from that day on, preparation has been one of my biggest sort of habits that have seemed to be an asset.
Oh yeah, you are one prepared dude. I gotta say, I remember in True Detective, I used to lean on you a bit. I'd go into your trailer, into the what do you call it again? The
Smithsonian.
Huh?
The Smithsonian.
Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But anyway, go in there and you got everything mapped out, because I'd sometimes get confused. Now hold it, what happened before? Where are we in this thing? And you'd have everything just perfectly choreographed. You had it all the way across the backside of your trailer, because obviously, you know, we were working on this 6 months. It was quite a lot of. But other than that, I mean, you've always been unbelievably prepared. That's why that story about the Spanish monologue always surprises me, because I can't imagine you doing that. You know?
But that screw up, that embarrassment is what catapulted me into going like, I never want that feeling again. I got to be thoroughly prepared so I can be in the game and call the audible. So I don't, because you know how it is. We show up to work. You don't want to be thinking about stuff. That's the time to play. You do your work before we show up. Then we show up and you play in the scene,
Right.
Can I talking about, green lights in life, when we succeed, we can engineer them through our choices. We can also get through them by sort of this line I heard from this great man, great grandfather in Alabama, who told his son, the best advice I can give you, son, is I've had many crises in my life, thousands of crises in my life, but most of them never happened. So there is value to getting green lights by actually denying a crisis sometimes. And you want to bring up this story, if you don't mind, you know what the story is. Like kindred spirit of my mother because Woody, for everyone who doesn't know, Woody, he's a very conscientious man. At the same time, he can breeze through things that would make me sweat. He can breeze through things like, c'est la vie. Things that I would be more tight and concerned about, or maybe feel guilty about, or feel like I need to do something about. You can breeze through some of those things. And I envy it in many ways about you, and always have. Well, this one time on True Detective, I could tell that something was bugging you, that you had a heavy heart about something. And I remember you came to the trailer and we sat down and we talked about it. And we both dropped tears over it. And I'm not going to share what it was, but we dropped tears over it. And I remember saying to you, man, so many things, it's like, for you, it's like water off a duck's back. I this heavy of a thing, I barely noticed that it was bugging you, but I could tell you, I know you well enough to know your heart was heavy. But man, if I was in this situation, I'd be like, I don't know if I'd be able to be as good at work and good at being present as you are. And I said, what? How do you handle it so well when you run into a crisis like this, or you run into an obstacle that you need to get around that you're not getting around, and you're in this kind of pain? How do you handle it? And you gave a long pause, and with tears running out of your eyes, as sincere as possible, you looked me in the eye and what'd you say?
I just forget about it.
I just forget about it. There's some genius in that. That's where you and my mom get along so well.
That story about your mom, you said she may go to bed.
Yeah. This is why you and my mom get along so well, and why you and my mom have been kicked out of the same bars for smoking the same joint. I go to my mom and I'm like, my mom, and you know how our elders sort of become revolutionaries again after they get in their 60s, right? I have lack of consideration for the rest of the world. Hell, I'm going to die soon anyway. Let's rock. Well, that's the phase my mom's been in for quite a while. And one day I'm like sitting there going to her, I'm like, Mom, is there anything? You forgive yourself quicker than anybody I know now, Mom. Is there anything that you ever regret that you look at like, oh, I wish I could have done that better. Oh my gosh, I'm going to work on that tomorrow. And she goes, oh, honey, every single night when I go to bed, I make a mental list. It's sometimes 25, 30 items long of things that I could do better, of things I regret, of things that I need to improve on. And I remember going, okay, she's human. And then she goes, but the thing is, honey, when I wake up in the morning, I forgot them.
God love Mom. I mean, she's the best philosophy.
There's many different ways to catch a green light, and sometimes it's just denying it's your red or yellow, running the red light to get your ass home. You know what I mean? Can be catching a green light sometimes. Where are you now in life? What are you looking forward to? Where you going? I mean, I know you're working right now, but what are you looking forward to?
I'm in Toronto, getting ready to, not getting ready. I started this movie here. It's called Man from Toronto. Ironically, it was supposed to be shot in Atlanta, but they moved here out of fear of getting shut down. And so, with Kevin Hart, it's a action comedy. But you can see, look how the trees are changing. It's kind of beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway.
Nice. How's kids and family?
Everybody's great, man. They're all in Maui. They're having the best time, living the good life. But I'm so proud of you, dude. I got to say, I'm extremely proud of you. I mean, I'm only, like I say, about 50 pages into this, but it is phenomenal. It is so well written, so smart, so wise. All your wisdoms, because you say, I can't tell you how many times you've helped me with your wisdom. You're one of the wisest people I know. Somehow, the way you integrate an experience in your life, you're able to really communicate it to other people in a way, certainly for me, that it just lifts me up. And I can't tell you how many times I've been down or something. I talk to you, and you changed the channel for me. But it comes across so beautifully in the book. I was reading it to my friends earlier, and they're like, "Man, that's great." They're psyched to read it. So, did a great job, buddy.
Thank you. I had a good time doing it. It was hard and it was bloody at times, but I had a good time doing it. You brought up something about change the channel there a minute ago, and I've got a title, a part in the book, and it's titled "Find Your Frequency." We've all got times where we're in tune and we're rolling and our reverb and interaction and relationship with the world and our friends and loved ones and career. It's just it's working. We're in rhythm. There's music to it. And those times when you're at the supermarket and you just pick the shortest line every time. You know what I mean? You're just driving along and you're on the highway and you're catching every green light. You're in the flow. And then I know for me, when I'm in those times, I'm always like, oh, okay, this is the mean. This is how it is. I've tapped in. This will always be. Negatory. You hit a rut, you get off the rails, you lose frequency. It happens to all of us. What are some ways that you get back on frequency when you feel like you're off frequency? What are ways you get back in tune?
Well, just in the immediate, a deep breath really helps. This particular day, there's just been a couple things that I found extremely frustrating. And I just got to feel my feet on the floor and just take a deep breath and say, okay, I mean,
Yeah.
how bad is it really? I got the greatest life imaginable. Let's not get sidetracked. But I think that's in an immediate sense. If it's some big, life crisis, I don't know. Hell, I don't know how I deal with that. I don't remember. I know that there's I've heard this said from other people, but in terms of like my wife and family, we agreed early on that she would handle all the small problems, and then I'd get to say, I'd get a say on the big problems. But so far there ain't been any big problems.
Yes. Yes. Well, I've always said this to you, and I think most people out there watching probably know this too. And I've always said you're one of the last great wild men alive. I mean, you are a very conscientious man, but you are not bound by what the majority of the social norms, rules, laws, regulations say we're supposed to do. I mean, sometimes you'll throw that forearm up on that before you even hear what they got to say. But you're just not bound by that. And I mean, you have your family, you have your friends, you go on your international friendship tours. You're working your butt off now for the last, I don't know how many years. I remember that time in Toronto. I go to work on a film called, no, it's Vancouver, Two for the Money. I'm up there working, living in a trailer park on an Indian reservation.
Al Pacino movie.
Yeah. I'm on a Squamish Nation Indian reservation below the Second Narrow Bridge. And I think your office or someone in your office assistant called my assistant 2 weeks prior to that. And we had said, we were trying to hook up, but you and I never talked. And my assistant told yours that, oh yeah, he's going to be in Canada. I don't even think they said Vancouver. I think they said Canada. Okay. Now cut to 2 weeks later and I've forgotten about it. I don't even know where you are. It's 12:45 at night on a Friday night. I'm just laying down in my crib in the back of my Airstream and hear bang, 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 bang on the door. I go, who the hell is that, man? Bang, 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 bang. I open it up. There you are with the beanie like you got on right now going, Camry. And just showed up out of nowhere. I don't know how you found me in Canada, much less Vancouver, much less in the Squamish Nation Indian Reservation trailer park. Nobody on my team, my sisters didn't even know I was there. They didn't even know where I was. I don't know how you found me, but you did. And you came in, you ended up sleeping on the couch for a couple of days and we hung out. And that's another reason why I say when I introduced you, I said, watch it. Woody will come in the back door. He didn't come through the front door. He doesn't ring a doorbell. I mean, you've shown up you've shown up at our house in Malibu. And I didn't even know you were in the United States, much less did you know I was in Malibu. And I looked up, laying in bed next to Camilla, looked up at our bedroom window, and you were climbing in. Hey, bro. I'm like, how do you find these things out? But we've always, and then what do? You come in, we hang out for who knows how long as either one of us want to and can, and hug it out and say, see you later. And we never really make plans when we're going to see each other next, but we always seem to cross and hook up and hang out. And then recently we've gotten to do so with our families, which has been really cool.
Oh yeah. When we get to go to Greece, I mean, I don't know if those times will ever be again with how crazy shit is, but
yeah,
boy, we had a great time there 2 summers in a row.
Damn sure did. And look forward to doing that again for sure.
It's always a pleasure hanging with you, brother. I mean, I really take what you say seriously. You've dropped so much wisdom on me. You've done it in this book in a way that is so entertaining and accessible. I mean, I'm very psyched for people to read this book. You've inspired me because I said to myself, well, Jesus Christ, I know you took time and you went out into the desert and, you really, it's a hard deal to sit down and write, like to actually do it. A lot of people talk about it, think about it. They say, I'm going to write something, whatever it be. You're a doer, man, and you've done it. Inspiring.
Well, I went and gave it a shot, man. I gave it a shot. You know, that solitude thing is, you know, the company we keep when we're with ourselves is not always enjoyable. And I sure as hell don't always enjoy my own company. Sometimes I am my least favorite company. But I have tried to, you know, understand the prudence in going, well, don't pull the parachute yet. You know what I mean? Don't pick up the phone to call friends or go to the bottle or go somewhere to get your mind off of it. Sit here until we shake the monkeys off our back. And I've always found that around day 12, when I'm absolutely sick of myself, I finally get to a point where I'm going like, all right, let's figure this out because you're the only son of a bitch I can't get rid of, McConaughey. So let's figure out how to get along here. So what are we going to forgive and what are we going to say? No more. And then usually I'll wake up the next morning and be like free as a bird, light as a feather, and very present again. But I've had to do that a few times, you know, in life, and I know I have to do it some more. But yeah, you've always look. Every time I'm with you, I know I get younger. You and I our laughter, our love for each other, our fact that it's still a mystery if we do have the same father.
I think you'd let that out on this. Yeah, it is a mystery. We'll find
The factoid, we'll see. There's some breadcrumbs that lead to that being possibly factual, but we'll see. And obviously we love working together. You know, you want to tell a little story? It's a funny story about you and I love to tell, but I'm gonna let you tell it. So you and I get together, everyone out there sees how we interact, where I start, where you start, where I end. We're reciprocal. We're sort of, as you say, what's the word? Perpetual energy with each other. In our work, we've done comedies, which sort of need and want that when they're good. But we go do True Detective. And I'm Rustin Cole and you're Marty Hart. And I remember I made some choices with the character. And I remember you saying, hey man, what's going on? It's about like a week into, like, what's going on with you, man? Like, what? You're like, no, don't what me, man. That's not how we work. I hit the ball to you, you hit the ball back to me. I hit the ball to you, you hit the ball back to me. We volley. Now I'm hitting the ball to you and you're just standing there still, and the ball's going right back past you, hitting the backdrop, and it's coming to a standstill, and you're still staring at me. What the fuck?
You know, you made me so fucking mad so many times. It was like I was dealing with a completely different person, which I was because you were in character. But I got to say, actually, I thought earlier today, knowing I was going to talk with you, I love your integrity. I love the fact that if there is a problem, now I aspire to be like this, but you are like this, you know, because sometimes I'll avoid conflict. But I remember one time, and you know the situation, when we did a scene, and I was mad as a hornet after this scene at you.
At me. Yeah.
Freaking, after the scene, after, you know, he had it, I walked outside and I was just so mad.
I thought you might.
Remember that?
Yes, I remember.
And you're like, just turned, you said, come on, man, let's go. Tell me what's going on, you know? And I so admire that about you. You don't let shit sit and fester. And that's the problem with most people in relationship. Little things happen, resentment starts to build, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then a molehill is a mountain. Well, I give you great credit for you don't let that shit happen. You don't let stuff sit like that.
Well, I mean, I was raised with you don't hold a grudge and you can't go to bed angry. So I had many nights where, you know, we'll stay up all night. You'll miss school. I'll miss work. We're not going anywhere till we hash this out and can hug it out and drop a tear on each other's shoulder and say, you know, I love you. I just didn't like you right then. I love you. I just don't like you right now. And I remember that moment, for whatever reason that you and I missed. And that's as mad as I think I've ever seen you at me. And I actually, when I went up to you, I was thinking Woody and I may be getting in a fist fight right here. His answer to me may be a right hook across my face. And I was like, fuck it, I don't care. He's my buddy. I love him. This is not going to define us going forward. I don't want it to fade away and not bring it up. So later in life, a year, a month down the road, one of us has to go, hey man, I want to talk to you about that fucking, no, let's get it over with right now and see what the hell it is and hear each other. And I don't even remember what we said, exactly, but it was more that we faced each other and you told me what the problem was and I told you where I was coming from and we understood we sort of missed each other. Ships missed each other in the night on how we saw the situation, and that it wasn't personal to you and you weren't being personal to me. It was about the situation, but we hashed it out and it was over and we hugged it out from right then and never had an ounce of regret or an ounce of anger toward each other since that moment when we hugged it out.
That's true. And by the way, if you recall, that was right before you did that scene that was the final scene in True Detective where you're in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
And you on the first take, boy, what a performance, dude. I mean, I haven't seen it in years, but when I saw it, up close and personal, but when I watched it later, it is
to look back, I never thought about it. But if you and I wouldn't have hashed out our differences before that, and that was on the same night, I don't know if I could have been as present in that scene you're talking about, because that's the scene where you and I as characters trust each other and need each other more than any other scene in the movie.
Yeah. In fact, it really helped in the end that happened, and then we worked it out.
Yeah.
Because there was some element of that helped the scene, but man, just generally that performance you gave as Russ Cole was. Wow, dude, you're a phenomenal actor. I don't want to have actor envy with you, but I kind of do. You're unbelievable. You're so great.
Back at you, buddy. You know how I feel about you, man, and you just keep on doing it. Right now, you're outworking my butt, aren't you? This guy right here is talk about perpetual motion. You were laying down some films and some characters, man. You are moving and grooving. It used to be I was working. You were like, what about an international friendship tour? Come on, bro. You're going to miss another summer working? What are you doing? Now it's flipped. You keep working. And I can't find you. You're always on location.
Oh, man, I'm like a $5 whore. I don't know how to say no.
I love you, buddy. Hey, thanks for taking time out to come chat. It's good for you and I to catch up anyway, and thanks for taking time to catch up with the people that are actually watching us. And anyway, just to if they followed, agreed, or disagreed with anything we said, what you can't disagree with is the laughter and the love that were in between the lines. Love you, bud.
I love you, brother. What a pleasure. Take care.
Yes, sir. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We are still back. Jeff, are you out there? The rest of the crowd, are you still out there? Okay. There we go. I see you. I don't hear you, Jeff. Can you hit your mic?
Yeah, so we're going to pivot back to some of the audience questions you've got there. So I'll let you kind of take that from here, and we'll
absolutely. Question. Best to carry on like I did the first question first and got interrupted when me and Woody did our thing, and now I'm coming back to this?
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
All right. So, all right, we are back. How about that? I got another 6 months younger just by having a virtual 40 minutes with the one and only Woody Harrelson. Yeah, one of my best friends in life, and probably you could see some reasons why right there between us. I'm going to get back to answering some questions that you have asked me. Let's go here. I believe Matthew wrote the book himself, but I would love to know if a ghostwriter was involved. Good question. Remember I was talking earlier about not having the courage to go write those diaries and see what they were to write a book. Well, my first step to going to write it before I actually went to the desert was this guy, Stephen Karutz. It's Karutz or Karetz, I believe. He was a New York Times writer. He had written an article called The Tao of McConaughey. and I liked the article. I was like, oh, this guy gets me. He sees a similar lineage about sort of how my thoughts are connected, and there's a central theme to them. And so I spoke to him and reached out to him, and he simultaneously was thinking about the same thing about, hey, he would come on and go write the book with me. Well, as he and I met and started talking about more of a sort of almost a motivational self-help book. And it was good idea, but it was going to be an idea of a small sort of paperback, college kid having the bathroom book that you could kind of pick up and grab a nugget from, which there's still a lot of those in this book. But the New York Times and everything made a rule where they weren't letting their writers ghostwrite. I don't know if it was celebrities' books or everyone's books, but for whatever reason, he fell out. So when he fell out, that was the best gift I could have been given. That all of a sudden became, oh, okay, I don't need it. And I remember Camilla, my wife, saying it to me, this is perfect. You don't need to have somebody help you write this book. This is exactly what you need to have happen. You need to go write the book. And so shortly after that was when I packed everything up and went off to the desert on my own to go write it myself. So yes, I did write it myself, but there was a ghostwriter there early, and thankfully he got pulled from the project and we weren't able to make that book. What made you want to put in the work to write a book? I sort of answered that in the first question. Again, those diaries, my excuse for the last 15 years before writing the book was, oh, you know what? After I die, Camilla or a great friend will maybe open those diaries up, look at them. And if there's words in there worthy to share, maybe that's how they get shared. That'll be fine, post-mortem. Well, I was sort of making an excuse to myself with that. So then going away to see if, the words in there, if there was something that would be worthy of sharing, was the first step. And then after looking in there going, hey, I think I've got something that is very subjective, but can be objectively adapted by anyone, that made me feel like, okay, it's worth sharing. I remember on day 4, I wrote this down. Because I know I'm coming in here as a celebrity. I've got partial equity. A publisher might want to publish books because I'm who I am as my celebrity, and some of you out there might want to buy a book, hey, just because I like McConaughey or whatever, and I'll buy the book. But I was like, well, that's not the reason to write a book, though. So the word, I remember writing this down, the words on the pages need to be worthy of sharing if it's signed by anonymous, and at the same time be a book that only I could have written. And that was sort of my general North Star as far as like measure of content and truth or necessity and excellence of content. So then I went to it, and like I said, 52 days mainly writing and then about a year editing, and now that's what you have there, hopefully in front of you, Greenlights. Let me go down to another question. As moments of discouragement come, and even the mundane becomes overwhelming, do you return to one particular green light moment to reignite yourself? How did that green light cement your faith and belief in yourself? I think there's a couple of moments that I go to when I'm discouraged or feeling lost or feeling insignificant. I go to a year I had in Australia where I was really forced inward and had to rely on myself because I didn't have any of the crutches around me. I didn't have friendships. I didn't have my car. I didn't have my mom and dad. I didn't have a job that had money in my pocket. I didn't have, the most handsome sash that I had just won my senior year in high school. I didn't have my 4 handicap in golf. I didn't have my girlfriends. I didn't have any of those things. And I had this year in Australia in this little country house in the middle of nowhere where I was coming of age. I was forced to rely on myself for how I felt about things in life. And I was faced with a lot of very big questions that questioned my own values and own morality. And I didn't have anyone else to check in with about like, well, what do you think of this? Or I didn't have mom and dad to check in with. I had to rely on myself. And I really went to the page and wrote. And I wrote 14 and 16 page letters every week. Mostly I wrote to myself. So the Socratic dialogue I was having at that time, writing myself, then writing back, was an inward introspective dialogue that I'd never had before in my life. And and I remember going away for that year, there were many times I wanted to come back home. But I'd given a handshake deal before I left with the Rotary Club that no, I will go for the entire year. And I do remember, as insane as I was going, I was celibate. I was a half-assed vegetarian. I was running 6 miles a day. I was, basically coming back to my own bathroom each night, reading Lord Byron and masturbating. I mean, that was like a nightly ritual, and I was kind of losing my mind. But I remember having in my gut a feeling that there's a lesson in here for you, McConaughey. You've got to stick this out. There's a green light on the other end of this. Before I added the title, green lights. There's light at the end of this tunnel. Stick with this. Go through this. It's a penance. It's got value. And I didn't know when I'd see it. But I can easily say that I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now with the life I have if I did not have that year in Australia. That time where I was forced to go inside, that time where I was lost and had to fight to find my footing, to figure out who I was, what I believed in, what I didn't believe in. So when I go through times now of overwhelming things or mundane, or as I said, insignificance, I think back about that year, and the pain that I went through in that year is written in my lineage. It scars on the inside of me. And that I endured it. And it takes a lot to challenge the endurance. It takes a lot in life today to challenge what I went through there, or at least that moment, that year will tell me, oh no, you've got more resilience than you think you do. At times when I don't think I do, or times where I may be questioning that. Let me answer another question. What is your work balance like? How do you split your time between working, family, and recreation? Well, I'm in a very fortunate position in one aspect of that. Before Camilla and I had kids, she put both hands on my shoulders, looked me in the eye, and she goes, one rule if we have kids: if you go, we go. And so everywhere, I obviously very quickly agreed to that and said my yes ma'ams. And every film I go on, everywhere, every location, my whole family comes with me. That was non-negotiable. And that has really helped me balance a work life with my family life and recreation. Because a lot of times, if you go off to work on your own for a few months and you're not with your family, you're building debits as a father, as a husband, and you got to get back home and try and make up for them and then go away again. Well, I didn't have to do that. I can go to work in the day, fully concentrate, and come home at night, be greeted by my kids and my family, have dinner together, tuck them in bed, hang out with my wife, and get up and do it all over again. So I'm fortunate in that I haven't had to go make up for lost time in certain aspects of my life, like family. Recreation time for me now, I've got children 12, 10, and 7. It's mainly stuff with the kids. It really is mainly stuff with the kids. That 4 handicap I said I have, I don't have it anymore because I don't play golf. I don't have the time, nor make the time to go off for a 5-6 hour golf round. I just don't have it. Each day, I try to take out 45 minutes to break some sort of sweat, just to press reset for me and keep my mind clean. But recreation now is mainly with the kids. What was my favorite part of the writing process? I have a bunch of favorite parts about it. But as writers out there, you find the right word or the right sentence that sums up the situation. And my experience was I'd wake up in the morning, my days were sort of feverish. I was writing 17 to 21 hour days and not needing or wanting much sleep because I couldn't wait to wake up and write some more. But the mornings, it's that first thing right when I woke up, to get that first sentence to kick the story off, to get that first sentence right. That sometimes could take hours. But as soon as I got the first sentence and it had the right cadence, and it smelled right, and it felt right, and it introduced us into the story right, and it was the first note of the song. Then it was just, I could fly through the story. But I had to get that first note, that first sentence to get me started. And that was one of my favorite parts, is finding that first sentence and learning not to get frustrated with not finding that first sentence. And being patient enough to know that, when you do find that first sentence, you're usually on a roll. And that's what usually happened. And that was really fun, a really fun thing about writing the book. How and when did I start keeping a journal? Do I include issues in my personal life? If so, do I discuss with my family before writing the book? I started keeping a journal when I was 14. And I started keeping a journal the reason most people keep a journal. Go write down the problems. Go write down, my heart's broke because, Gretchen Donnelly broke up with me. Write down my those questions of who, what, when, where, why. What's going on? I'm confused. I'm trying to find myself. Oh, this hurts, etc. Times when I was maybe feeling like I was flailing or failing at something. Then in my early 20s, I had a little run where I was catching green lights, meaning my relationships felt good. My schoolwork was good. My relationship with my curriculum was good. I had a job, I had some money in my pocket. I felt like I was in a groove. And I remember telling myself, oh, don't quit writing in the journal now while you feel like you're succeeding and you're feeling satisfied. And those are the times when we usually don't want to write things down, because if we feel like we got it, we don't need to write it down. But my hunch was that it would prove a worthy task that could help me in the future, and it did. Because as will happen when things are going well, you get in a rut again. And when I would get in a rut, I would go back to my diaries and look what I was writing when I felt satisfied. Look what my habits were when I was feeling successful. Who was I hanging out with? Where was I going? How much sleep was I getting? What was I eating? What was I drinking? How was I greeting the day? What was I looking at? What were the rituals I had that maybe I'd forgotten or taken for granted? And those times where I was writing when I felt like I was succeeding helped me recalibrate and get back on the rails and find my frequency again to help me get out of ruts that I later got in. So that's where my writing in the journal started. And then I've kept one on every movie I've done. And it's not necessarily about the movie. It's more, how am I seeing the world and my relationship in it through that character's eyes? And every character is some part of me anyway. So how am I seeing the world through that part of myself? That's how, but the subjects have always sort of remained the same. I did find this out in writing the book. The same stuff I was interested in at 14, I'm still interested in today. I'm still enthralled with interrogating and investigating myself and trying to see what makes me tick, who I am, who I'm not. How can I do better? What are the things in my life? What is there a science to some satisfaction, which I believe there is. What's my place in the world? What's going on in my relationship in it? And I'm still interested in those things. My questions, I think, have evolved from when I was 14, thankfully, but I'm still interested in the same subject matter, life. Let's see what we got here. What's one practice that you can't live without during this pandemic? Well, I don't know if there's anything I can't live without, because relatively speaking, I'm living all right without what I've got. I'm kind of was already somewhat built to be adaptable, to have more solitude from the trips I've taken, or practically from my job description being an actor. But then I talk to someone, I have a virtual moment with Woody like I just did. That's not me and Woody in the room hugging, but that's pretty doggone good replacement. I got to feel his joy. He got to feel mine. We got to have our connection there. And we needed to have that anyway. It's been a couple of weeks since we talked, and we got to do it virtually and talking in front of you. So there are some people I miss the human touch. I miss the physical proximity to. What's my all-time favorite book? Either Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, which was a seminal book for me in that it found me at a certain time in my life when I needed it. But I'd say my favorite book to read and go back to would be Emerson's essays, especially the one on self-reliance. It's one I return to. When I first read that, and I don't know, it's like 23 pages or something. I don't know how long it is. It's not that long. But it took me like a year and a half to read it, just that essay. And it's because I read the first paragraph, maybe just the first paragraph, if I could get through the first paragraph and then go, whoa, I can't go any further. I've got to take that with me and take it out in the world and see if I can practically apply that POV in my own life and put it into practice and test it and see what it does for me, see how I feel, see how it makes others feel. And that may take me months to put one paragraph into practice before I feel like I can move on to the next paragraph. And that's another reason why I've always called myself a slow reader. Because if it's something really useful, I won't move on from it until I take it away and opine it and try and put it into practice. But Emerson's essays, especially the one on self-reliance, would be one of my favorites. So here we go. Last question. What advice would you give yourself in your 20s? Where is your motivation and drive derived from? And what do you take care of your mental health? So what advice would I give myself in my 20s? Yeah, take the risk. Take the risk. In my 20s, I was starting to see how opportunities would arise. And if I paused and was like, I don't know, boom, I looked up and the window of opportunity closed. And so I tried to get pretty good early on to be instinctive at going, oh, I see an angle, I see an opportunity, hit it, be moving towards it, move towards it while you're even thinking about it. As you notice it, move towards it because the window will close quickly. I would also say to my 20s, if I could go back, which I'm not big on going back and I wouldn't want to change anything because it's just as it's written, but don't try and grow up too fast. There are some things in my youth that I know I maybe missed because being older to me was cooler. As I said in the book, the one thing I always knew I wanted to be was a father. So that was I always had my eye on that, being a father, because to me that meant that would mean I had made it in life if I became a father. So I had to quell that down sometimes because don't be in a rush to being a father, Matthew, and enjoy your 20s. Enjoy the time you have until you do become one, if you ever do become one. But I would say that don't try and get older. It's something I try to teach our kids now. You're 12, you're 10, you're 7, whatever age you are, don't try and rush it because that time doesn't come back. And so, I hope my kids get to travel like I did, take a year abroad, go find themselves, lose themselves, find themselves again, and get to do travel. Culture has been one of my greatest educators. Now, obviously, I don't get to travel as much now in the same way that I used to. I can't sit here and go, oh, I want to go to Mali, Africa tomorrow. I'm going to put it in my backpack and go. No, as you get older, you get more responsibilities. You get things you have to tend to. You can't just pick up and leave. You have things you have to tend to, family, business, career, job. So when you're younger and you can, if you have the option to, get out, explore the world, please go do it. Pack that backpack. Go find out. Go get lost and found again. So there you go. That's been the time that we're going to spend together today. Thank you all for showing up and being in this conversation. I quite enjoyed it and love seeing my good buddy Woody, and I hope y'all enjoyed it as well. That's some questions that I've answered according to my life in Greenlights, and here's to catching more of them for all of us.
Thank you, Matthew, so much. One final question before we say goodbye, if you have just a moment, which is we're going to be talking to our pal John Grisham tomorrow. I was wondering, just curious, when you heard that there was a sequel coming out to Time to Kill, I'm sure you were early in on that process, hearing about that. What was it like going back to that books and that character again? And I guess one question we've gotten a lot is there the possibility that you may ever reprise that role?
Yeah, so that was a particularly enjoyable read for me because I inherently was seeing myself as Jake Brigance because I played Jake Brigance in Time to Kill. So it was a subjective experience for me, different than it would be for some other people reading the book. I loved being back in Clanton again. I loved returning and having relationships with some of the same characters that I did in Time to Kill. I loved getting to the summations, which a lot of Time to Kill I held on. Like if that final summation doesn't work, a lot of the movie won't work. It hangs on that. And so then to see John paint the same sort of pictures and how Jake is, makes me wonder things like, well, what if Jake moved to Atlanta? Would he be a successful lawyer over there? I mean, Jake Brigance is always conscious led, and can't help himself. And it's an autobiographical book. Time to Kill is autobiographical for John, which I'm curious, maybe when you talk to him tomorrow, I'm curious of how autobiographical this Jake is this many years later to him. I also, really enjoyed John's play on Ecclesiastes. It's a time for everything. And now he's flipped the script and shown the 180. First was a time to kill. Now there's a time for mercy. I asked him the other day if that's his moral stance or if he just wants to show different points of view on a similar subject. And his answer was closer to the second part. No, he's showing that there's different ways to look at it at a situation. So he wasn't making a moral stance about a certain lockdown belief that he had about justice in these cases. And as far as me reprising the role, I've been asked, and I talked to John about it. I mean, it's something I would give sincere consideration to, for sure. To go back and be in Jake Bragance's shoes would be a hell of an experience.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, thank you for taking the time. This was like a huge honor for all of us, and one of our best, like I said earlier, one of our best pieces of news for the year, getting this opportunity to chat with you. So thank you so much for doing it.
Awesome. Look forward to meeting you in person.
All right. Take care. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it. Just keep living.